Hello! This is a Mein Leben run in the first DLC for Wolfenstein II, The Adventures of Gunslinger Joe. So if you aren't familiar with Mein Leben already, it is basically the same as I Am Death Incarnate, but you only get one life, and you're kicked back to the main menu when you die, so it doesn't save your progress at all. However, if you are familiar with Mein Leben in the normal game, the big difference with this achievement is that you actually only have to do Mein Leben one level at a time. So it makes it a lot easier to get this achievement than the main game. So after you beat one level in Mein Leben, if you get to the next one, you can die and do the next one multiple times, and you won't have to go back and do the previous ones.
Remember, pal, Oak Street Hotel. Oak Street. This is a lesson.
So in this DLC, your character Joe gets basically the equivalent of the ramshackles from the main game. So you can charge and kill enemies that way. You can also break through walls. After you bust through this wall, there's going to be 4 guys in this room. The boxes right in front of you are a good spot to lean on. There'll be another guy in front of you, and then 2 guys to the left. But if you kind of tuck into this little corner on the boxes, it'll be a good spot to lean. So when you go back, you'll be in cover. Once they're all dead and you're ready to go, you'll just bust through the wall, the next wall, on the right side of these windows. And then there's going to be one more guy inside of this room to deal with before you press the button. So your character also regenerates armor. When you pick up armor off the ground, you'll start gaining extra armor. And then if you take damage, it'll stop. That's definitely pretty useful to have. Another big thing that you have is cans to throw instead of a hatchet like in the main game. The cans are a lot harder to aim, and they're not certain kills. If you don't hit them in the head, they'll actually just fall to the ground stunned for a few moments. So right now I've stealthed the guy right on the left when he came in, and then you can walk out and melee the guy in the middle of the room. And this last guy over here on the right side that I just took out, he's the last guy on the bottom floor. So at this point, what I'm trying to do is look up the stairs and try to see which stairway is clear. These 2 guys won't always come down the stairs here. I think they heard me walking around on the bottom, and that's why they came down. Either stairway will take you to the very top, but what you'll want to do is just sneak up to the very top of the level, and then exit through the open door. If a commander catches you and sounds the alarm, then the doors will close and you'll have to fight it out. And you can fight it out just at the start if you need a fallback spot. Once you get to the lab here and you look over towards the stairs, a dog and a guy will start running down, so be sure to take the dog out as quick as you can. Dogs are deadly. Moving down the halls is 2 more guys, and then when you look down this main hall, you're going to have a whole slew of guys to deal with, but mostly they'll all just funnel into you.
Damn, I need to take a knee after that.
From what I've seen so far, it seems like the enemies in this DLC are a bit more consistent than they were in the main game. At least for trying to plan where to go.
An alle Wachen. Neue Befehle zu Gefangener 398. Einsatz tödlicher Waffen.
They seem to basically almost always go exactly the same way. I remember having a little bit of trouble with them doing unpredictable things in the main game, but it seems like it's less of an issue now. If you feel like it's slow and people aren't coming in anymore, you can take a look out that window right on the left from where I was leaning, and you'll probably see them walk in over here where I am now. And if you start pegging them, they'll keep on funneling towards you. Once you walk up these stairs, it'll trigger the enemies to start coming towards you. I like to take cover at the bottom of the stairs, since I know there isn't anyone behind me. At the top of the stairs, there's two ways in. They can come through the... There's a hallway on the left that they can circle around. There's going to be a few more guys up here and also a heavy. And you can lead all these guys back to the lean spot at the bottom of the stairs. So there aren't upgrade kits in the DLC like there are in the main game, but you will just find upgrades for guns lying around. There would be a specific upgrade, and I never found one for a suppressor, which would have made some of these sections a lot easier. But if you come up these stairs and just ram through the wall here, and then through the boxes, you'll find what I believe is the first upgrade. Some extended mags for the machine pistol.
Wegen eines Gefangenen? Glaube ich nicht. Wir reden hier von Gunslinger Joe. Hast du nicht gehört, wie sehr diesen Kerl hasst? Bei der Besprechung heute Morgen.
For these first two guys, if you start by meleeing the guy on the left, you should have enough time to then melee the guy on the right, and you should still be silent. So I'm pretty sure there's one commander right under where those two guys were, and then the second commander is always in the room above where I am right now, behind a gate that you would sprint through. I don't believe you have to take everyone out in this room, but I think it helps a lot when you're trying to save armor for the dog ride, the next little section. By the way, down that hall where I just was, if I would have kept on going, the commander was sitting over there in the corner, I'm pretty sure. But I wasn't familiar with him going that direction. So now I'm gonna go look around for him, I think. Up in this room, near this locker room, or the room connected to the locker room, there's another upgrade. This is for the pistol. And I believe it's the upgrade that makes it stronger. So right now I'm still trying to find where this commander is. So if you do walk up to enemies like that, you just want to make sure that you do melee them quickly if you want to keep the fighting silent. The combat in this DLC seems to be very loud, or seems to be focused on that anyway, and I think that's why there's not a suppressor laying around. They're trying to emphasize that, and I think it's fitting. Fitting for Joe. Finally found this commander now. If you don't get a kill with the throwing can, the canned goods, if you don't get a kill on a commander, if you're throwing it at a commander, I'm pretty sure they will activate their alert. So that's just one thing to keep in mind. It's probably better to melee them instead of trying to can them. I like leaning from this room with the commander. It's a convenient space, and there's only one way out. Until you press the button. When you press the button, another door opens. I like to wait to press the button until the doggy mount is freed. So I'm just opening up the crate. And now once you press the button, 2 robots are going to spawn in the warehouse with you.
Time to take one of those.
If you just leap down and get onto the doggy, the robots will come down the stairs on your right side. So I like to sit in the box and then just shoot off to the side. And once the gate opened, that spawned a bunch of heavies and regular Nazi soldiers. So you can do the same thing with the left side of the box and let them lead in. And that's something I'm going to do a lot with the dog ride, is sit on a corner, use it as cover, and then just kind of pre-fire where they're going to walk in front of me. I think that helps save some armor you could lose, and you'll definitely want to have as much as you can for when you have to fight the other Robodog. So after you walk down the street and you know that the enemies have been triggered, you can just go back to this box and then pre-fire out towards the street. Sometimes, especially heavies, they'll get in front of you, they'll get where you're shooting, and they might get a shot off on you, but it won't be very significant and you'll already be shooting them, so I do like kind of the spots I go in here. I think this will help when, if you're ever low on armor, if you stick to one of these spots where you're just using the wall as cover, I think that'll help save some potential hits you could be taking. So the heavies are definitely something you want to take out as quickly as possible. Also, the turrets you'll want to do as quickly as possible. Once you come out to this street to kill this guy on the turret, see, I kind of lingered by the turret too much. You just want to take the turret out and then go back to the spot if you're going to do this. Because once you get lined up with the gas station, it'll spawn more heavies to come after you. Now, if you remember the dog from the main game, you pick up armor off the ground and that adds to your health. So it's definitely worth backtracking to pick up extra armor if you need to do so. Now I'm gonna walk down this alley a little bit till the next set spawns, and I'm gonna use this cover just like before. And like you probably saw, I just triggered the next set of guys out on the next street, and I'm letting them come all the way back to this spot. You might be able to wait on actually the next corner if you wanted to take them out sooner, but once you trigger those enemies, it also triggers the other robo-dog to come after you, and I like to fight that dog at the gas station. I think there's a good spot for it there. I think any spot that has a circle, a little circular path around it, any of the trucks like that will work. I know there's one out on the road where the dog comes from, but that means you'd have to get all the way out onto the road, so you'd take some unnecessary hits. So this is the truck I like to kite the dog around. And I'm not sure if the dog has a ranged attack, but you definitely don't want to get too close. That time, I didn't need to go up towards him the way I did in the alley. And when I did that, I lost a lot of my health. Like, I got all the... I might have been full. I can't recall exactly, but I might have been like 700 to 800. And then I lost almost all of it because he was a little bit too close to me. But the dog does drop a ton of armor, so that's helpful. And once you're kiting it around the circle, you just want to aim for its back as best you can. He's got some explosives back there. I think it helps kill him a little bit faster. After the dog is dead, this street should be clear and you should be able to just move up to this next barricade. Once these 3 heavies, I believe, are dead, might have just been 2. At that point, you're good to just move on up, because you are basically at the end, unless you're crazy low on health or something. But even then, there's not a whole lot to deal with, just regular guys. And you can also use the little flamethrower through this door to take out the guys in this room. That's helpful as well.
I was getting attached to the pooch.
On the first floor of the apartment here, you definitely want to focus the dog down.
Fire through my neighborhood. Maybe it's better we had to say goodbye.
And once you get to the second floor, guys will come down from the third floor, so you can kind of just sit back and let them walk in front of you. Down this hall will be a couple more guys. And in this hall, the main thing you want to pay attention to is that when you're leaning, you're actually behind something solid, because they can shoot through the grated fence. And that's actually what I'm doing here. I'm actually using that fence to shoot through. So basically, I'm getting behind the solid wall and shooting through the fence. After you deal with the heavy that spawned in the next little area, you should be in the clear here. And then once you bust through this wall, it should be about 3 guys. And then that'll lead you to the elevator and the end of the first level. And there are 3 volumes in the game, but the third volume is kind of split into 2. Even though the third level is split into 2, you do have to do both parts. You have to do the headquarters and Venus all in one go. It doesn't save in between them. But each volume does save. It saves the credit for the achievement once you beat it on Mein Leben. So at this point in my game, I've already got credit for the first volume. Once you get to this segment, you can just die. You don't have to actually kill anybody.
What a name, folks. Score 1 for the home team.
Now this next small section with the 1 commander, it starts out with 2 guys who are kind of facing you, and if you kind of slip a can over, you can this guy, but it's kind of hard to aim them. Another thing you could do is throw the can behind them. It's just a little tricky because they're already facing you, and they're very sensitive to that. If they see you down the stairs, they'll just aggro immediately. If the commander is triggered, it'll just bring in 2 more guys. And you should be clear after the 2 guys are done with. I believe I'm just looking for armor right now. bullets are also helpful, especially for this next section. This next room is kind of a big, wide open area. Or it's not that wide open, but there's a lot of guys that come funneling in. I like to take cover on that pillar, but the big thing to look out for is a grenade. They'll basically always grenade once. And you could either run back where you came from, or you could run towards them like I did. I only ran towards them because there was one left. I was confident there was only one guy left. Otherwise I would have just ran backwards. Now when you get to this spot, it should trigger 4 guys to come down this ramp. This seemed like it was a little off. The game might have been doing something a little funky. Every other time I had done this, 4 guys would just come running down the ramp, like they are now. But normally I didn't have to get that close. I like to just grenade them. It's an easy multi-kill with a grenade. And then once you head up the ramp, more guys will spawn at the end. Once these guys at the top are dealt with, that will be the end for this room. I think the Gewehr ammo is useful for this next room. Now you can do some stealth here. You could go towards this guy, you could take out a couple guys in the room, but I kind of skip that and just start fighting from the initial doorway right away. So 1 heavy drops. After you kill a few guys, 1 heavy will fall down. And now while you're in this doorway, you see the grate underneath you is pretty open. It kind of looks like they can shoot through it, but they can't. If you get too close to the edge though, they can just shoot you through the railing, but they can't shoot you through the ground. You will just want to pay attention to any guys that are near on the bottom. This guy with a shotgun wasn't normally there for me, and I let him shoot me a bunch. I didn't realize he had walked all the way out. To the left of this button is a little room with a nail gun upgrade for the machine pistols. So I would definitely recommend picking that up. And once you press the switch, another heavy is going to come through with the door that you opened. And that door is where you want to go. And it's pretty easy to just slip past this heavy. I like to let him walk right where he's headed now. I like to stay up on the catwalk. And he'll walk to this side right where he is. And normally he'll do a little leap and jump up. This time he didn't do it, so I just shot him. And again, you can just run through the doorway at any time. I would just make sure you're safe before you do it. And once you drop into the sewers, there's going to be 2 drones. I would actually take your time on that first drone, make sure he's dead before you turn this corner. Because once you turn the corner, you'll be dealing with the second one as well. So just take your time. They're easy to deal with. So now I did a lot of running out here in this back alley, and I think it made this guy come through the back door to investigate, and that's why. Normally these two guys would be chilling out in this room, and you could stealth them, but I don't think there's really much of a need to.
Like the quiet
I do like to just shoot these guys outside on the street, on the next street, from the doorway in the building. Once you step out, it'll trigger the first 4, and you should be able to start ranging these guys like I'm doing right now. Once you head down the street where these guys are coming from, a commander will appear. So I think it's good to make sure you range these guys and it's all clear at the end of the street before you move forward.
My fellow Americans, this is Commander Metze speaking. As a dentist, I know the value of helping people. You can all rest easy.
So there's one Klansman on the left you're going to want to deal with if you do this the way I'm doing it. And because the diner's open, basically I like to just run into it. But this is the main guy who will see you when you do that. So I like to take him out first. As long as he's gone, you can just kind of run right in. Right in the kitchen is an upgrade for the Gewehr. So definitely grab that, it's extremely useful. And moving on here, right when you drop there's going to be a dog and a heavy. So just run around far to the left. Sprint into the heavy once, it'll make him stagger and he won't be able to shoot you for a second. And then after you hit him once, you can just run along through the wall. In this garage, you could stealth these guys as well, but I like to just get it started. It's easy enough to clear this next area from the garage. If you're slow on killing the 2 guys in the garage, those 2 guys that I killed initially on the left side, out on the street, would come into the garage to investigate, so you'd have to end up dealing with 4. But I got out to the cover point quickly enough so that they didn't actually get the opportunity to come into the building. But that's one thing to just keep in mind. There could be up to 4 depending on how long it takes you to clear this initial garage. Once you're leaning though, you should be good. Another small thing is just to keep an eye over here on the right side. Sometimes guys can be stuck behind the vehicle over here on the right. This is another section I'm just gonna start off shooting in. The commanders are another thing that are a bit different in the DLC than in the main game. In the main game, if the commanders are triggered, typically guys will funnel towards you until you kill them all, and then the commanders will run towards you after they're all dead, and the commanders are the last ones alive. In the DLC that still happens, but also a very common thing to happen is the commander will just rush you anyway before all the guys are dead, which I think is kind of neat. And another thing they do is it's more common in the DLC for the commanders to just be in their own little area. I think that's what's going on with this one. Even though he's on alert, I wouldn't be able to get him to go downstairs until I cleared this hallway. And there he is. And after you deal with the commander at the end, there's gonna be a small group of guys in this room here, and they're gonna rush the corner. So one thing I think probably would have worked is if you walked to the end of the hallway and then just moved back from where you came from. If you did that, you'd be able to range those guys instead of getting up close. But it's up to you. After you deal with them though, that is basically the end of this level. Volume 2.
Say hi to the surveillance cameras. You really embarrassed
All
me
that's left to go through for this one is
Commando Joe. I told them you were dead. Dead.
listening to Metze.
Slave, embarrassing an uber commandant of the Reich.
And in this room there's going to be one switch.
Joe,
Other than that, you're just
nothing I hate
following the
more
points downward.
than being caught with my pants down. So I found an old friend of yours, deep in a coal mine outside Hillsboro. He's waiting for you in the room at the end of the hall. Consider this my gift to you, Joe.
And I think I mentioned this already, but this next level is in 2 parts. It'll basically give you the prompt to exit the level at the end of the headquarters, and then you'll get warped to Venus. But you do have to do both of these sections in Mein Leben together. It doesn't save in between. So here I would keep in mind how loud you're being on the other side of this gate, because that guy is pretty close to the gate and he started shooting me before I even busted through it. This is another room I like to lean on from the starting point. If I would have waited a little bit longer, I'm pretty sure more guys would have come on their own. Now there are going to be 2 more guys in this room. They won't spawn until you go up the stairs. So just keep that in mind. 2 guys will come out of the doorway on the top once you go up the stairs. And right away in the next room is the rocket pistol, which will be very useful for the last boss. And in this room with the security checkpoint, if you just lean on this cover right here where I am, everyone in the next rooms, all the people in the next rooms will just funnel into you. So you can just take your time and kill them all. I believe there's about 9 of them. Now there's going to be another group of guys at the end of this hall. Right here. There's 3 guys in this, basically in this corner room. And then there's going to be another 3 guys at the bottom of these stairs. And they're just going to run up to you. And you can go ahead and shoot them like I was doing when their backs are to you, but they also, if you start shooting them too early, they will just turn around and start shooting you through the glass. So I just try to be a little cautious with that.
Bastard's office. Could still smell him in here.
In this room, you're just triggering, you're pressing the button, the 2 buttons, one near the projector and one facing this wall.
So, Metze
And right down the stairs here is another upgrade. I believe it's for a shotgun. And there's more rocket pistol ammo too. Oh no, it's for the rocket pistol. Okay.
Maybe there was a hidden opening somewhere.
These 2 guys, I believe you could just shoot them. But I like to try and stealth them because there's an enemy really close. I'd be surprised if he didn't hear the shots, but I think he might be on his own path with these commanders. They might not trigger until you get into this doorway. So I try to stealth those 2 guys, but it might not be necessary. I like to push into this room as quickly as I can. The green jumpsuit guy doesn't always turn around like that. I think that was kind of a rarer thing for him to do. So look at me. But there is a guy near him too who is facing you. So you'll just want to be very quick when you get in. And if you are triggered, if anyone is triggered, you can just run to that hole. That hole stays open. And that's your exit point anyway. Now in this little catwalk area, you want to do your best to avoid that first heavy. I didn't, he saw me. But even if he does, you can just move on like I did. You can jump off from the catwalk. But once you do, you're going to want to sprint all the way to the end. And if you can sprint all the way to the end, you'll avoid fighting all the heavies in the room. There are 4 total. So it is nice to avoid having to fight them. Here's the last room in the headquarters section. I like to start just by killing immediately, so they start getting, all the enemies in the room start getting aggro to me. Now you'll see really far away here, there are groups of enemies that won't come to you until you either shoot them, like I'm about to do right here. If you start shooting them, that will trigger them to activate more guys. Or they'll start moving around at least. You can shoot at guys on the top of the stairway on both sides, on the left and the right. At this point there's about 5 guys left, so you can take your time from the doorway, from the initial, if that's the way you prefer to deal with it. Otherwise you can just move on up and try to take them out. But Joe will start talking. I think the objective will update for you once everyone in the room is dead. Everyone does have to be dead in here in order to move on.
I had to find something to hide in. Play the stowaway game. I'm on board a ship to Venus.
Once you go through this crate and you get to Venus, you're gonna bust through the door and kill one automatically. And then there will be 2 more in the room, so just keep that in mind once you get in. It looks like there's only one, but there's actually a second one right down here under the stairs. And that guy is very avoidable, because you have to go up this direction anyway. So it might not be necessary to take that first guy out, but I kind of like to clear it just in case. Moving on to this room with the 2 commanders. This is a pretty simple room to deal with. You'll just want to make sure that these 2 guys aren't facing you. And if they are, you kind of deal with them quickly like I had to do. This was the first time I had ever seen them look this way, which was especially odd because I know I was crouching the whole way up, so I'm not sure what triggered them to look that way. But if you can deal with those 2 guys, then it won't spawn anybody extra in here, and you can just go downstairs through the main doorway and just move on. If there was an alarm, I think you'd have to at least deal with a robo-doggy that would come out of this hallway. And at the end of this hallway is here's the shotgun upgrade. Right at the end of the hall. But if you don't trigger anyone in that section, you should only have to deal with the first 3 guys, and then you can just move on. Now that we're outside here, you can just lean on one of these first walls, and all the enemies in this first section will funnel to you. And now that we're outside, you do want to keep an eye on your cooling meter. Make sure you don't burn up. Kind of keep in mind where the stations are. There's 2 along this little hall here. I think there are about 5 or 6 guys in here. 2 of them were on the top, so they come down a little late after you start fighting. Before you go into the next area, I would make sure you're all cooled off. This next fight can take a minute, so you do want to be topped off there. Ideally, you'll want to be about this far back after you start fighting, or back even farther. The main thing you want to look out for here are the robots. There are at least 2 robots in this room. At least one of the robots should rush you. It'll rush you pretty soon in the beginning. The second robot will be a little bit more delayed. I'm not really sure what makes him delay, or what takes up that time. Okay, there I was just finding out that the other door, the door I went through, is actually closed. Now keep your ears open here, because I've had that happen multiple times where the robot waits to push you until you're at the machine. So if you do start to hear him, just get off the machine really quick. Here's one thing to keep in mind when you're sprinting around is to watch out for the explosives, because when you sprint into them, you'll blow them up. It actually applies more on the previous levels, like when there's just a little red barrel, a little red canister around on the ground. If you sprint into it, it's bound to just blow you up and kill you, which is a real shame. On this level, there are those big red explosives, and if you sprint into those, it actually rolls them forward, and then they explode, so it's a little bit different. In this room and the last room, once you start fighting, these little barricades come up, and then once everyone's dead, the barricades will go down, so it's a little indicator for you. And this will lead us into the last room of the DLC. I like to start this with shotguns, because I'm going to be running up close to people. As you go up these stairs, I'd go a little slow, because that guy's tucked into the corner. After that, you can just move on. Now the trick here is to not stop, really. Try your best to not stop. Once the boss sets off that horn, that means that, I believe it means that he's targeting you. So you want to move from that spot, because he's going to launch rockets at the spot that you were when the horn goes off. So if you keep going in a circle, you'll be really well off. After you take out the two commanders, the main thing you want to do is take out that heavy. And after you take out that heavy, then you can switch to the boss.
Use the gray goop in that little head of yours, son. I am ordained to commune with God.
So just keep in mind when he's setting off his horn. Okay, now this room seems like it's pretty safe. And it's probably worth going in just to pick up the health, but actually he will rocket in front of the room and it will kill you, so you don't want to wait in that room. You just kind of want to go in and out really quickly. Now hopefully you'll deal with the boss before you run out of, before your suit gets too hot and you don't have to deal with this. But if you do, what you'll want to do is just do it for a second. You don't want them to target you while you're stuck on the machine, because those rockets will one-shot you if they get to you. I got kind of lucky there. I didn't even time it that great.
The Venus heat was making me
Once the
sweat
boss
worse
is
than
dead,
2
you're a
days
lot
in
safer to
August.
use the machine.
Fleeting memories.
But the next door, the final door, won't open until everything is dead. So there will probably be guys lingering around. It was all clear for me though. You'll just want to keep that in mind once the boss is dead, that there could be some guys walking around.
Oh, this is what they call poetic justice, Joe. You could have had a decent life taking
And that's about it.
on the field for the
Once you
right
get to this
shit.
room
Now look at
and Metze starts talking to
a
you,
limp dish rack
all you have to do is the
groveling
final
on the
prompt
floor.
to execute him.
Before I shoot your
And
brains
then
out, any last words?
that will get you the achievement.
Why haven't you fired the sun gun yet?
The Sonnengewehr? Oh, that's not operational yet. Are those your final words, slave?
I'm not sure if it's possible to die here. I always just
This
did
is-
it really quick. But
Go long, you nuts
nothing tricky
bastard.
about it. Just trigger the prompt and you're good.
I laid into that son of a bitch just like my papa taught me all those
Okay.
years ago.
And that is the achievement
All
for
brothers and
the
sisters
Gunslinger
suffered at the hands of the
DLC.
Nazis.
I hope this helped you out. Let me know if you'd like to see more. I would be into doing the DLCs for the next ones as they come out next year. So just let me know. Goodbye.